All right, man. Back at it with some more videos, man. So we're checking out some new, man. So what's
Yeah,
the name of
is
this
new.
video?
This is how one mass shooting changed the UK's gun laws forever.
Yeah, UK gun laws, man. So a lot of countries, first world countries, have like gun laws and stuff that like
More strict gun laws.
strict gun laws
Yeah.
and stuff that definitely extremely reduce like gun violence in their country. In our country, in America, it's a bunch of like mass shootings all the time.
Yeah, a lot.
So this is gonna be pretty interesting to see how
Yeah.
the UK
Because you never
how they
really
deal with
hear
it.
about UK's mass shootings
No.
or other countries as
Yeah.
much, for sure.
Right.
So.
Yeah, like them, Japan, Switzerland.
Right. I mean, I
all first world countries.
recognize they clearly don't have as many as we do. So.
No. But that, according to the title, they probably put a stop to it right
Well,
off the bat,
exactly.
you know. But yeah, y'all, it's gonna be us Americans checking out, how UK changed their gun laws. So
Yeah.
we definitely looking forward to checking this one out. Let's dive right into it.
Shot all around me.
Hundreds of students ran for their lives.
We didn't think this would ever happen.
The shooting at an elementary school in Newtown.
Virginia Tech.
Parkland, Columbine High School.
A total of 15 people.
33 dead.
20 children, 7 adults.
It's all in America.
More than 240,000 US students have experienced gun violence at school since
Yeah.
Columbine in 1999. But in the UK, it's a different story. Private ownership of all handguns and semi-automatic rifles is banned, a concept
Oh,
unimaginable.
they can't even
in
have a
America.
handgun.
Yeah,
I guess I didn't. I forgot about that. I did know that, but I completely forgot they can't even have a handgun.
Yeah, they can't even have a handgun.
Wow. Okay, that's crazy. That's
think-
totally different than
I
here.
think like Japan, I think they can have a handgun, maybe a shotgun.
Yeah, you were telling me about that, right?
Yeah, I don't know
It
if they
just
can have
takes
like
a lot more work to get it.
It's extreme. It takes a lot to really like. It's like the process of getting a gun in like Japan. It's like you have to get like you have to be checked out by a doctor to make sure like you're not like mentally unstable.
Probably have to like get a permit, which
Yeah, you
takes
gotta get
time.
a permit, and then you gotta go to the police department and register your gun, I believe, and then they have to like ask your neighbors, "Are you mentally fit?" It's a long process. It's just like
But if it works.
Yeah, it works. Like
I
they don't really have too
mean,
many gun deaths there,
right.
You know, so it works. Yeah, no
Forgot
handguns
that
here.
UK has none at all.
Yeah,
Okay,
none at
that's
all.
Totally different.
But how have these two inextricably linked nations ended up with such vastly different attitudes on guns? And how did this massive change in the UK even happen? To understand, we have to go back to 1996,
Oh, that's
when
when
the
it happened?
Dunblane
Yeah.
massacre changed everything.
Grief, shock and disbelief in the Scottish town of Dunblane.
A former scout leader with a grudge.
It is a tragedy without precedent.
16 tiny children died right here at Dunblane
Oh.
Primary School. The massacre, carried out by a man who had licenses for his guns, was enough to change the UK's gun laws forever.
Yeah.
What's truly amazing is that by the end of the next year, it became illegal to own a handgun in the UK.
But how did the UK get to that point so fast? It was mainly due to the activism from those personally affected by
Wow.
the attack.
Yeah,
My daughter Sophie was
wonder was he a
one of
politician?
the 16 young children who were shot dead at Dunblane Primary School. She and I were on our own. She was my only child.
Dr. Mick North was an academic before the shooting.
Okay, he wasn't.
But
Yeah, I guess
after, he found it impossible to return to that life. So
Yeah.
he devoted himself to making sure other parents never had to experience his agony
Yeah.
by becoming a gun control activist.
Well, yeah, the problem is like, our country, we have a lot of mass shootings throughout the whole year. If our politicians want to put a stop to it, they can do it right now.
They could.
They could. They could do it right now, and we can stop all this. Now it'll take a long time because we got like 350 million people in America, and it's about 400 million guns. So it will take a long time to get those guns
Oh,
out of
yeah.
here. It will
We're-
take probably years to
Plus,
do
I
it.
don't think we'll ever go to a complete ban on being able to own a gun.
Yeah, yeah.
Just because the way our Constitution was written.
Yeah, we have the Second Amendment and
Yeah.
stuff. Now, me personally, I believe in the Second Amendment. I believe we should have the right to bear arms and
Right,
stuff
I
like
do too.
that, like a handgun or a shotgun.
But I think
don't
only
think we
certain
should have.
weapons.
Yeah, I don't think we should have weapons of war.
One of my initial reactions after Dunblane was a feeling that this should never have happened because the guns that the perpetrator used have been too easy to come by.
Dr. North combined forces with other people who were touched by Dunblane, like former Scottish Labour MP Richard Simpson.
Now, he was a doctor at the local hospital at the time, but then after that experience, he changed his entire career, became a Labour MP, and helped to lead the motion to change the gun laws in the UK.
What I discovered was that the then Conservative government was in the process of actually seeking to deregulate the process by which guns were regulated in the United Kingdom. And that really made me very annoyed.
These two men were part of a movement fighting to be heard by politicians. Residents of Dunblane and relatives of victims started speaking out and organising public relations campaigns and creating petitions.
Politicians weren't necessarily used to hearing from the victims of shooting incidents.
Everyone who says, I enjoy the sport, I want to hold the gun in my hand and have the live ammunition. What I say is, you have those emotions for enjoying your sport, but feel the emotions of a parent who is never going to see their child again.
There was a massive groundswell, a bit like the climate extinction movement now. It wasn't highly coordinated or paid for.
So we had a petition called the Snowdrop Petition, which was getting the public to sign up for a ban on handguns, eventually gaining over 700,000 signatures. Within 2 years, a total ban on handguns had been introduced in this country.
By 1999, over 165,000 guns and over 700 tons of ammo had been surrendered.
There was a lot of
they did a gun buyback program.
It suggested that it would actually badly affect people who used guns for sport, but it hasn't done so.
What we did was a major achievement, and I'm very satisfied with what we were able to do.
Dunblane happened. The gun laws were overhauled before Columbine even happened, 2 years earlier.
Right.
It's
2 years before
the precedent
Columbine.
was set. We knew what was starting to happen across the world.
And 2 years later, on April 20th, 1999,
I'll
two
remember that
teenagers shot and killed 12 fellow students and a teacher at Columbine High School near Denver, Colorado. Just like Dunblane did in the UK, Columbine shocked Americans. It wasn't the first school shooting in the US.
I was gonna say, it
but
wasn't the
those
first,
images
though.
No, it wasn't
captured
first.
on live TV set
I
something
think it was
off
just
that
the way
had
they
ripple effects
they
throughout the
media of
country.
it.
And just like in Dunblane, no one was closer to the situation than the victims' parents.
Yeah, I wish that the activists here would have had as much success.
Killed at Columbine High School. He was 15 years old.
Like Mick North before him, Tom devoted his life to fighting for gun control, even taking a year off from work to lobby at the state capitol.
Just 2 weeks before Columbine, at the dinner table, Daniel asked me a question based on a conversation that he had with other members of the debate team. He said, "Dad, did you know there were loopholes in the Brady Bill?" Brady Bill is a national law that requires background checks to purchase a gun. And I just kind of blew it off. He was then killed with a
2
gun
weeks later.
that was purchased through a loophole in the Brady Bill.
Wow.
I mean, how could I not act on that? To me, that was very prophetic. And it made me realize that when we have loopholes like that, when we have so much carnage in this country, we have to do something about it.
But you noticed about the dad, right? When his son was actually affected by that murder.
Well, then he really...
He
hit
kind of like shook it off, like, oh.
I mean, and I don't want to say that that's the only people that are activists, because there's a
No,
lot
no,
of other
it's
people
like
that do fight
activists.
hard and are activists. But for sure, I mean, when you're directly affected like that, you're gonna want to make a change and really work hard at that.
Yeah, you are and stuff like that, and you always think to yourself, like, why couldn't you could have thought about that sooner?
Right.
There could have been more deaths, you know.
Even
but,
if this change had happened after Columbine, think about all the shootings that could have been prevented.
Oh yeah, if we would have had like maybe straight to gun laws like other countries, then we probably would have had a lot less mass shootings. It would have went down dramatically. Now you have some people might say, well, I mean, that's not true. We really don't know that. I mean.
I think statistics show
shows,
in other countries that it would
works.
clearly work and it would have made a difference, in my opinion.
Yeah, some people might say, well, like places like in the UK, they have more like people die more by knife stabbings. But it's like, I'd rather deal with a knife stabbing than somebody with an assault rifle who's going to mold a bunch of people down versus, you know.
Yeah.
I became very vocal, active.
And Tom did make some very real progress on a state level soon after, helping to introduce a bill to close the same gun show loophole he and Daniel had discussed over dinner. In 2000, the public voted and passed Colorado's answer to the Brady Bill by an overwhelming majority of about 70%.
I felt that I did something to honor Daniel. I did something in response to something he brought up to me.
But this small victory at the state level in Colorado was overshadowed by strong national backlash against gun safety laws.
I'm sure.
Barely a year after Columbine, then NRA President Charlton Heston gave this famous threat.
From my cold, dead hands.
In America, We are so wrapped up in individualism and
Yeah.
rights
Yeah,
that we
it
say,
kinda
well,
is,
no,
yeah.
we can't do that because that
Yeah.
might possibly affect my rights. And
Yeah.
for a lot of people, that's more important than what could possibly happen to them or their neighbors.
Yeah.
It's a cultural issue that is very starkly different between us and other nations.
Yeah, I agree.
I think it's shameful in the
He's right.
U.S. that we have failed to really react in any significant way.
Since Columbine, the narrative in the US around gun rights and gun control has only become more polarizing.
Yeah, that's true.
Restricting law-abiding Americans from acquiring guns is obviously unconstitutional.
Is it time to repeal the Second Amendment?
The left has their rigid, radical, anti-gun agenda.
Hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15, your AK-47.
In the US, barely any federal gun control laws have passed since Columbine.
Yeah.
In fact, experts say the most significant change in gun law is when politicians let a Clinton-era assault weapons ban
that was
expire in
crazy.
Yeah,
2004,
right?
making
Because there
assault
was
weapons like
one.
AR-15s legal again. Since then, the AR-15 has been used in almost every notable mass shooting in America.
Yeah.
And the problem continues to get worse. The US has more firearms per person than any other country
Yeah.
in the world.
We got
And
more
it's
guns
the
than
only
people.
country in the world that has more guns than people. And the US gun homicide rate is 25 times that of other
That's crazy.
high-income
Look at UK,
countries,
there's really
including
nothing.
the UK.
The main problem is not necessarily the Second Amendment, but how that has been interpreted.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's
In
interpretation,
America, there
yeah.
needs to be an understanding of how to tighten the law without grossly infringing on what are perceived of as rights under the Second Amendment.
But it does seem ridiculous to use the words of the Founding Fathers to decide how you control or don't control weapons that are
Right.
usually used in war zones.
Yeah.
There have been so many mass shootings since Columbine that many Americans feel hopeless about reform.
No.
The fact remains, however, that 61% of Americans do support stricter gun laws. And there are many potential changes, such as closing the gun show loophole or restricting assault weapons, that would make a huge impact and would not go as far as a total ban on firearms.
Yeah, it seems like a pretty simple
Takes
changes
a long
too.
time sometimes.
Yeah.
It's not just changing the laws. You also have to change culture to get people to be willing to change the laws.
That's a good
And
point.
perhaps there'll come a time when enough people vote in politicians who will be supportive of the gun control measures that America
hope.
needs
Yeah.
and deserves.
No one has kids so they can buy them bulletproof backpacks. You have kids so that they can hopefully thrive in a better world than you did. We really have to ask ourselves if we're giving them that opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think about that. I'm sure people in other countries, they look at United States and say, oh my God, why can't you
probably
guys
think
do
we're
anything about it?
crazy.
You know?
Yeah. I appreciated those two Scottish or British guys, though, saying that, like, they even can say that, like, it's not about restricting the Second Amendment in the United States.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there just has to be a way of coming to a consensus on saying we
Yeah.
can make these changes and still not infringe on people's rights.
Yeah, yeah.
And that is what it comes down to. But the problem is, it is so polarized now that nobody wants to.
Yeah. I mean, people think it's individuals versus a group and stuff.
Right.
And, I mean, people just think about themselves and stuff. They don't really think about, like,
The greater good?
Yeah, these children getting gunned down and stuff like that. They just think about, well, you're infringing on my rights. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just crazy. I don't know. I think someday we will have it. I mean, more states in our countries.
Are
you
moving
know,
that way?
Well, we have a ban on assault rifles in certain states, like Illinois, I think New York, I think possibly California. I don't know the other ones and stuff. Now, I think what's going to happen, I think slowly, maybe the more blue states is going to do it first. I don't know. It's probably going to be a while for the red states.
I think it's going to be a while because it's just it's a heavy fight.
Yeah, it's heavy fighting stuff. It's going to take like maybe, sounds bad, but it might take us like another 15, 20 years probably
Yeah.
before we even have it. Because like the problem is we have money in politics. You know what I'm saying? We have like lobbyists, gun lobbyists who like, you know, fund these politicians. You know what I'm saying? They kind of going to, you know, do their bidding. You know what I'm saying?
I'm not. Money in politics isn't necessarily alone to the United States, but the money and the guns and the politics is probably alone to the United States.
Yeah.
But
But you know, a lot of countries, you know, they had one incident and they put a stop to it.
they made a stop to it, yeah.
UK, I think Australia.
I don't remember. Like in England, can you still do like hunting rifles? Because
I don't know, 'cause
I thought
they
they
said
still
ban on
had a
guns.
pretty
Yeah.
big hunting I thought. Like,
Yeah.
hunting was always pretty big, like in England. So that would be a question. Like, can you still have hunting rifles? It's not a
Yeah.
handgun. They said no handguns.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Or is it no gun at all? So
Yeah,
that
it
would
makes
be
me
a question.
wonder. Yeah, is it like no type of firearms at all, or
Right.
can you actually use firearms for sports?
Or are you like, do you like borrow a rifle to go hunt and turn it back in or something?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I'm just curious. Like,
It
or
does-
maybe not. I mean, maybe they completely. But I really thought that there was still a big hunting sport over there. But I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I think if America was able to adopt gun laws like other countries, I think the closest America would do is maybe close to how Japan did theirs, because everybody can still get a gun.
To still have a handgun
Yeah,
and maybe
and
a
a
rifle, like
shotgun,
a
yeah.
rifle, but
it's
a
gonna
stricter
be,
process of getting one.
yeah, it's
That's
gonna be really
what
hard
needs
to get
happen.
one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's definitely a pretty interesting video.
It's depressing.
Yeah, it's depressing and stuff. I think about like how many more mass shootings we gonna have in this year. I mean, you just thinking about like it's coming, and it's just like it's just crazy to think about that. But
it just feels like it's never gonna end.
yeah, like we should never stop for change, and we should never get numb to it. Because
Yeah.
some people get numb to okay, another mass shooting, they just forget about it.
I think a lot of us are to some extent, because it's hard to
yeah.
It's hard to deal with all of this tragic events one after
Yeah.
the other, and as humans, that's how we deal with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, we definitely can't give up fighting.
Yeah.
For what you believe in.